If you're building, developing, or modifying a structure, your margin sits on your engineering. The JCE team don't just produce drawings, they deliver structural design that protects your buildability, compliance, and cost efficiency from day one.
That means detailed analysis, clear documentation, optimized steel and concrete, not over-designed, not underdone. They're focused on practical, buildable solutions that reduce RFIs and protect program.
If you want engineering that's commercially sharp and site ready, visit jcengineers.com.au and check out their structural design services page. Because good engineering doesn't cost, it saves.
Welcome back to another episode of So What Does That Mean? Today's episode is the most expensive word in construction. Should.
There's one word that quietly costs the construction industry billions every year. It's not variation, it's not delay, it's not defect, it's the word should. We should be right. That should comply. They should have checked that. The engineer should have covered it. And almost every dispute we see starts with that word.
It sounds so harmless. It sounds confident. It sounds experienced. It sounds like someone who's done this before. But it's actually a placeholder for uncertainty. And uncertainty in construction is expensive.
Very expensive. And today, we're going to unpack why that one word quietly destroys margins, relationships, and reputations, and what high-performing operators do instead. Let's put numbers around this. Over 70% of construction disputes stem from unclear scope, assumptions, or misaligned expectations. Almost half of defect claims involve documentation gaps or misunderstood responsibility. And the average legal dispute, $150,000 to $250,000 before any rectification costs are applied. That's not including lost time, lost trust, lost opportunity. And here's the key point. Rarely does someone say, we knowingly ignored compliance. What they say is, we thought it should be fine.
And that's the scary part. Nobody wakes up trying to cut corners. Most people think that they're doing the right thing. So Brendan, why do you think should is so common?
Because it feels like progress. And construction rewards progress. You pour the slab, you stand the frame, you keep moving. Stopping to verify feels like slowing down. But the irony is, not verifying is what causes the real delays.
Can we go a little deeper into the psychology of this? Why do intelligent, experienced professionals still default to should?
Because should reduces anxiety. When you're under time pressure, cost pressure, client pressure, should gives you relief. Instead of saying, I'm not sure, you say, it should be fine. And that sounds stronger.
So is it almost like an ego protection?
Exactly. Admitting uncertainty can feel like weakness, but here's the reality. In engineering and construction, uncertainty is normal. What separates professionals is how they manage it.
So would you say should is more about emotional comfort than technical certainty?
100%. It's a psychological shortcut. Instead of checking the code, reviewing the drawings, confirming the specification, clarifying the scope, we move forward because momentum feels productive.
But that momentum can obviously be false progress.
Exactly. You can move fast in the wrong direction, and in construction, correcting direction is expensive. Let's look at a footing detail, for example. The builder says that footing detail should work. Okay, so based on what soil class, based on what load case, and based on what site conditions, should skips this key verification step.
And once concrete is poured, it's obviously too late by then.
Yeah, exactly. Once you have concrete in the ground, you can't go back and check any of these assumptions.
So let's talk structural steel, for example.
Yeah, that's a classic one. That beam should carry it. Should, based on span, wind load, live load combination, or based on experience from another job. Every single site is different.
What about council approvals? Like developers say this one a lot. Council should approve it.
And sometimes they will, but should ignores planning overlays, flood mapping, heritage controls, discretionary interpretation. Approval isn't a feeling. It's an assessment against an objective criteria.
So what's the common thread across all these examples?
Well, it's assumed responsibility. When should enters the conversation, ownership becomes blurry. Everyone assumes someone else has verified it. That's where disputes are born.
So where should hides? Let's talk scope. How many times have you heard, we thought that was included?
All the time. If it's not written, it's not included. Scope clarity is margin protection. Ambiguity is where should lives.
And scope creep is rarely malicious. It's usually assumption-based.
Compliance confusion. Here's a big one. Compliant does not mean optimal. Compliant does not mean risk-free. Compliant means minimum standard.
And minimum standard might not suit the project risk profile?
Exactly. If you're building in high wind exposure, aggressive soil, flood-prone areas, minimum compliance may not be enough. But someone says it should comply, and the deeper risk isn't discussed.
So we're talking about delegated responsibility. This one creates friction between professionals. The engineer should have checked it. The certifier should have picked it up. The builder should have known.
When everyone says should, nobody owns it. High-performing teams clarify responsibility up front.
So how do we remove the should?
Here's the practical shift. Replace should with what evidence do we have? Evidence means calculation. Every time as engineers we do a calculation, we have to run through the process of a set list of assumptions, a set list of specific site constraints, and follow a code to be able to get to the end of that calculation with a result, whether it's pass or fail or above or below a certain factor. Written confirmation, you need to get something in writing. How many times have you asked somebody, that's great, but can you put that in writing? And they don't. Or they send you an email or a letter that comes back that's very vague, doesn't say what they said on the phone, doesn't say what they said on site, and they can't back up what they're saying. This is because they don't know. Specification reference. In accordance with what code? List the code. If your engineer, your town planner, your builder can't specify to you what code they're saying their statement or they're determining their conclusion against, then how do you know that what they're saying actually is true? I mean, as engineers, we use codes all the time. We have Australian standards. We've got local government standards. We've got individual asset standards. We've got all these codes that we use every single day. I reckon even in a director role at the moment, I reckon I'd be looking at 25 to 30 codes every day just to be able to verify what we're saying is true and correct. Email clarification. Get it in an email, because an email has your signature at the bottom. It's got all the credentials of the person who's saying what they are saying. It assigns accountability back to the individual themselves. So whatever they're saying in this email, they're accountable for, and they're accountable for as long as that email remains intact. So, could be forever, could be 5 years, could be 7 years, could be 20 years, could be, another month. Get them to specifically write what you want to clarify in the email. It assigns accountability to that individual, and it means that you can then get the clarity to move on with. An inspection record. If someone comes to site, they go and inspect things, they take a bunch of photos, they take a bunch of measurements. Where's the record? A record generally has, confirmation of what was said on site. It generally has, sometimes it has a signature or some sort of a stamp from an individual outside of the inspector that was on site to verify what the inspector was looking at. Get an inspection record. Certification, that's the big one. I mean, in anything associated with a building or into the building code in Queensland requires a Form 15 or a Form 12. It's a specifically designed certification that assigns accountability to that individual that's signing it off in accordance with the building code, in accordance with the relevant standards and legislation. So get that certification. Obviously, they're different per state, but there's a particular set of wording in there that assigns accountability to the individual which, holds up in court and holds up in any sort of allegations you might make against that individual.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's not about mistrust. It's about documentation, essentially.
Exactly. Verification is respect. When you ask for evidence, you're protecting the client, the builder, the consultant, and yourself. At the end of the day, we have so many different people that are involved in producing the result for you. You need to be clear and understand exactly who is making what decision and where, so that if for whatever reason there was an incident or there was something that happened as a result of that decision that was made, you need to be able to identify exactly who is responsible, who it then affects, because it could affect every party that's involved in your project. And then, you need to be able to approach them and discuss the matter and get a rectification for it.
And that is important. When you ask for evidence, you don't look difficult. You look professional.
Best operators we deal with don't assume. They clarify early, because early clarity is cheap. Late clarity is expensive. I mean, how many times do we see clients that come to us, particularly around the development space? Oh, look, I'm thinking about doing, a subdivision here, or I'm thinking about doing a renovation here. Can you just give me some free advice and some free guidance? Like, I went to such and such town planners, or I went to such and such engineers, and they offered a free consult to be able to, explain to me the best path through the red tape and, you know, essentially make the decision, or give me enough information to make the decision as to whether I want to proceed through with this or not. And it's going to be beneficial for me. I can't tell you how much the word free actually costs you in the long run if you're getting poor advice at the start, or if the advice is vague and not specific to your property. Then, that's going to hurt you in the long run. Why would anybody want to spend a significant amount of time to look into something deeply to provide you the best advice for free? If they did that every single day, how would they be in business?
Mm.
There's no way for them to be able to, pay salaries for their individuals to be able to provide that advice for you.
So essentially, they're just giving the client the bare minimum information that may not even be site specific.
Well, you're coming to professional for advice. If they copy and paste advice from a website and give it back to you and go, "There's your property. Here we go. We've highlighted it for you." Or, "There's the building code. Here you go. We've highlighted the area that's relevant for you." Send it back to you. How is that going to help? That's not going to help. That's just them going on the website. Like, you can use AI to do that these days.
Yeah.
It'll copy and paste it for you. What you need to know is, okay, well, how do I interpret that information specifically for my particular project and my particular objectives for that project? Every single person is different. Every single case is different. So the advice that you're getting has got to be specific to your individual use case for it to then be effective moving forward. And you can't offload the accountability for making that decision. Ultimately, you are the one responsible for making that decision, but you need the most clarity that you can possibly get around the advice for you to be able to make a decision. I mean, if you become reactive and you make a decision off part information, you can't, at the end, when that blows up in your face, you can't come back and say, "Oh, well, I got it because of this and because of that. I made the decision because of this free advice." Like, if you do that, people are going to look at you and go, "Well, why would free advice be able to, make a $200,000, $300,000, $1 million decision beneficial for you?"
Yeah.
Who's giving that away for free?
Yeah, exactly.
If this episode made you slightly uncomfortable, good, because growth starts where assumptions end. This week, listen for the word "should" on your project. When you hear it, pause, ask, based on what? Where is that written? Who owns that? What standard are we relying on? Protect the margin, protect the relationship, protect the outcome.
If this resonated with you, share it with someone in your team, because one avoided assumption can save hundreds of thousands of dollars. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and connect with us across LinkedIn and Instagram. And if there's a topic you want us to break down next, send it through.
Smart construction isn't built on assumptions, it's built on evidence. We'll see you next week.